Okay, I just did something really cool. So this is a React 18 is coming out, and there's some crazy stuff going on. So what I did was I got this thing, blah blah. So Dan posted this thing. You guys don't know this guy? I don't know. He's famous in the React community. So there's this suspense thing coming to React 18. So okay. Let's talk about like what's really important here. React is really slow with server-side rendering. It's becoming a big deal, and a lot of people are looking for solutions. There's something called component caching and all this stuff. There's a bunch of solutions to try to fix it because every time you run your bundle, it like regenerates everything from scratch. And then there are some problems with this probably doesn't fix the component caching thing, but there are some problems with React in general with server-side rendering because you can't do any like use effect calls, which is okay. That one's okay, but you also can't do data calls, and so you have to like do the data calls first, feed them into the props, and somehow through context or some Redux or something, get them down into your React app, right? And that's the problem. And so they added this thing called pipeToNodeWritable, and you're like, well, didn't React already have a way to server-side render with an API, right? Like some Node API. Yes, it had renderToNodeStream, which did almost nothing, and it's now deprecated, but it looks like it had full suspense support. Okay, that's cool. Without streaming. Yeah. Streaming is the new thing, and so they've changed it to pipe to node writable. So I'm not exactly sure how all this works, but what I do know is that there is a guide here. This is the guide here to convert React to render to string, which is what you normally do on the server, and to this thing called pipe to node writable. Now I use render to node stream on one of my projects, but looks like I'll have to change it now to this. And I was going through it and how they talked about it. So basically, this render to string is getting a very, very minor update, so it doesn't error when you run suspense. And that's the only difference. If you don't know what suspense is a component that you can wrap some stuff in so that you can do data calls, and you can also like dynamically load components that are chunked in, and so that you don't essentially have this giant bundle. You can like get pieces of your componentry in at different times and put them in together. Now, what's important here with suspense is that it didn't run server side with error, and now it does, which is very nice. It should have probably done that forever. I don't know what they're doing though. It's not like I'm not exactly knowing what it means when they say they're suspending on the blah blah. It's before it didn't work at all. But if you try it, blah blah. Like I don't know. So obviously SSR and suspense didn't go together. Now they do, which is great. That's the biggest thing about React 18 is that you can now use suspense with SSR. Suspense is a big topic because suspense has been around from the component rendering standpoint, but the data point has not really been there. They've been changing that API a bunch, and the way suspense works is that basically you throw an error. Like you don't do this, okay? But internally, React is doing it. You're basically like returning an error from your code, and then React is like, yeah, I know that. I know it errored because you didn't have any data yet. And then it goes and gets the data, and then the next error that comes, if it gets that, then it'll be like, nah, your component errored. Or if you get data returned back from your component, then it'll be like, yes, please render this. Here we go. Let's render that to the screen. And so that's how it works. Basically, the first time that an error occurs, it catches it internally and doesn't render that, hey, there was an error. And that's how suspense works in a nutshell. It's very cool. That I did confirm that by looking through the source code and asking Dan on Twitter. I can find that tweet. I probably should do that real quick. Okay, I'm back. I don't know how to query Twitter to find any tweets. Period. I don't know how people do it, but I could not find this tweet where he was like, "Yeah, that's how it works," and blah blah. Like he gave me more information. I wish I had it. You know, it'd be nice to be able to go through my tweets and find it. Uh, but I did get that confirmed, so that is how it works. So basically, this old API is going away. The new API is pipe to node writable. It's gonna be more more crazy because Node itself has this whole thing about pipes, and the way they work is not the same way they work in RxJS, and it's like it's a way to render like chunks of data at a time. That's how piping in general works with Node. In this thing called writable, this reminds me of the FS, the file system API that with Node. And the way you get it today is React DOM / unstable fizz, and then you can get it. And so this is how you can play around with it locally. Now, I'm not. That was actually 17 days ago. Okay, let's see. This was 9 days ago. So this is out, I thought, already. Maybe it's just beta. I'm not sure. But I was looking through this example, and I made the API delay to 2 seconds. So basically, it was already 2 seconds. I actually changed the JS bundle delay. So basically what happens is, in this example that I'm going to show you right now, server-side works before the API will respond on the server before the JavaScript bundle will render. So what should happen is you shouldn't get these comments in for 10 seconds. That's not how it works. You're going to get them in within 2 seconds. You're like, what? No way. How does that even work, right? Exactly. And that's what the comments here look like. So look at that. That loaded. And look down here in the console. Keep waiting. Keep waiting. You're going to see something show up. It takes 10 seconds. So I have to waste your time. There. See that? Okay. If we go to my app.js file, rendering React app 3. So this app function did not run until that thing happened. But you already got the comments. It was like a loading indicator, right? You saw that loading indicator, and then they like streamed in. Isn't that crazy? That's how this new Suspense thing is working server side. It's like your server can stream in all the HTML. All the HTML, and then like stream in extra stuff in there. And one other thing that I was reading here is basically like this archive part is a chunk. And so it's also using Suspense, but it is rendered on the server side immediately when it's there because it's available, like it's on disk, so it has it. But maybe it's not available on disk. So if we go back to these delays, is there a way to change that? No. There's also this abort delay, and I want to change this to 1 second to show you that it will not render the comments now until 10 seconds. Let's make it 5 seconds. Okay, so we're going to count 5 seconds. These comments won't show up for 5 seconds now because when I'll save it. It's going to rebuild, right? Yes. So what's happening is the API is going to respond after the essentially our timeout time frame. Sorry, our time frame is up, and so the server is just going to give up and stop streaming at some point. It's just going to end and be like, "Here's your HTML. You don't get any new one." And then now it's going to wait till the JS bundle has loaded, and you'll see a comment here. It should be another one of these. There it is, number 2. And now it makes the API call, which takes 2 seconds, and then you should see your comments. Yeah, there it is. So what I did was basically this is because their example has all these abilities, but I can change the time frame at which it's like, okay, I don't care to wait on the server anymore, just let the client do its thing. And usually the JS bundle wouldn't take that long to load, right? It would take less time. So let's say like the JS bundle takes a second to load. Then what would happen is within 3 seconds we should see our comments. 1, 2, 3. The API would have given up and the client is making the call now, and then we should see it here in a second. There it is. Okay, well, that took a lot longer than 3 seconds, but the point is that the server was doing it, it gave up, and then the client bundle loaded and then did its thing. I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to clear this. You're going to see a comment down here. I want you to see it. It should take a second before the JS loads, but I wonder if it waits for the server to finish first, and then the client side loads. Yeah, then the client side. So it waited until this aborted from the server, at least that's what it looks like, to load the JS bundle, and it took a second for that. What if we set this to 0? I'm a little curious if we just do... This is how server-side would work today. Oh, I have to save it. Oh, I have to save it. Okay, let's try it again. Oops. So I didn't save it. Okay, there, bam. See, this is what it would look like. This is what it would look like today with, like, no delay. You know, it'd be, like, immediate. It would be like, bam, there's your, you see the loading indicator, and then your data loads in. That's how it would work today, right? But if we put this delay in here, it should, if I save this correctly, this time, it should immediately load the JS first before even the server is done processing. Yeah, okay. So it doesn't care about the server. It doesn't even wait for the server. I'm wondering if what happens is the client side loads and somehow it communicates with the server like, hey, whatever. You don't want the server to like replace this when the client is like ready to go, and it took over the app and all that. I'm not sure how that works. I would be very interested to find out. I'm going to change this to 2 seconds. So the server still is going to do its thing, but the client's going to load immediately. And this is something that I'm not sure about. This is something I would like to know more. Okay, we're going to refresh. You're going to see my comment down here. There it is. So that seemed like it took 2 seconds. Let's put this at 10 seconds. So basically what's going to happen is the API, I don't want 10 seconds. I'm going to wait 10 seconds. Let's say it takes 4 seconds here and the abort delay is, I don't care. This doesn't matter then. Okay, 4 seconds. So we wait 4 seconds. I'm going to change this back to not have a 3. It was actually kind of annoying. I did that just to make sure my code was working. Okay, ready? No? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that was like 4, 5 or something like that. So the API was taking 4 seconds. The JS would take a little bit of time to load, and then it would show. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what happens if you have a conflict between like, hey, the server's like still loading this data server side, and the JavaScript still loading it client side. I'm not sure. But typically your API calls could be quicker server side if they're all in the same, area. But that's not how everybody's app works. I mean, usually you got distributed systems these days, so I'm not sure. But if you have like them in a network, like on you've got a network and you've got a setup where your front end is on the same network as your back end. You can make the API call or like a GraphQL call or something. I don't know, right? And then it could load it server side faster than your client would potentially, especially if you're on like 3G or LG or not LTE, but if you're on like a 3G connection, it would definitely be faster for the server to load your data than for you to load it as a client. So there are benefits there too. I'm wondering if it reloads this data a second time. So once the client data loads in, does this load again? So it should load it once for the server, and then it should load it again for the client. And my guess is if it does or doesn't, I'm a little curious. Let's see. So if we go in the server code, is this the server code? Please tell me where my API call is. There's the pipeToNodeWritable. Here's our data provider. Okay, so this is how it's providing data. It's like, hang on. Let's do this. Provides data to React. Yeah, guys, this is so important. This comment. I'm not sure what this data provider is. I know it's a context. We created it ourselves. Okay. API delay. Yeah, I don't care about the delays. I care about like when you're hitting the API. Hang on. API delay, meaning there's an API call in here. Aha, here it is. Okay. Yes. So when it resolves, where's the data? Create server data. Yeah, but where's the... Come on, tell me where the object is that it loads these comments. I want to see this. Is it here somewhere? Data provider. It might be in data provider. Source data. If we go in there. Thank you. That was weird. Do you provide data? There's a value. Yeah. Okay. This is... where's this data coming from? Okay. Fake data. Oh, I see. So it has it immediately. There's no API call. It just has the data. It's faking it. I see. So this fake data should have an initial value, right? Or does it just take time to respond? Context.read. I don't like CTX ever. Can you even see this? I'm not sure. Oh my god, I can make it bigger. Wow. Okay. Wish I would have done that a while ago. Okay, so CTX they're using for context. I mean, why not just call it context? Come on. Not everybody wants to have to translate your 3-letter words, variable names, I mean. This context is only provided on the server. What? Oh. I see what they're doing. Okay. Well, it doesn't matter because this should be somewhere else too. How's the client get the data? Does the client not get the data? Is that what's going on? Like, no, because if even the server doesn't load, the client will take over and then load this itself. I'm pretty sure that's what. Let's change our delays here. Okay, the JS bundle loads after the abort is over for the... Okay, let's say 2 seconds here, 1 second here, and then the API takes, say, 2 seconds. So basically, the API won't respond in time. The abort will occur, and then it will load client side. All right, ready? Go. Clear up. Stop. What is this stuff? Facebook, stop. It's not Facebook. It's their... well, it is Facebook, but it's their project that does it. Okay, so we have comments. So the server side failed because it took 2 seconds for the API to respond. Then it aborted server side, and then the JS bundle took over after that. And so we still got our comments. Okay, let's look at comments. I don't like this syntax, by the way. I wish you just wrote fragment and imported it. Because it's like magical. I don't like this magic stuff. And also, not every text editor is friendly with this. They're like assuming everybody uses VS Code. It's actually kind of frustrating when I see this. Because it doesn't work in my text editor. Maybe it does today. But in the version that I'm using, because I'm using a color coder for accessibility reasons, then this does not work. Yeah, and this obviously is like invalid HTML or XML or whatever. You have to put something in here. I think so, at least. Okay, so what am I looking at? Okay, there's a copyright. Great. Thanks. This is so useful. Use data. Okay, use data is a hook coming from the data, which is we were in data, right? Weren't we in this thing? So there's a hook here somewhere. Use data. Oh, here it is. And it's only used server side. Well, how do you get it client side? Okay? Tell me how you get this thing client side. Because it's clearly client side is loading this. This is not server side only data. So it's replacing it though. So this is a fragment, okay? And then it's got these comments, and it's replacing this section somehow from the server render after it's done. So like load it in and like the server side render, put a loading indicator here, and then replace these with the like the correct values before the JavaScript even loaded. Which makes me wonder like what's going on here, because I feel like some of these comments are probably disingenuous, because it says it's only on the server that it's like loading this, but it's not just on the server, because I'm pretty sure this code runs in the client as well. What could be the case? Okay, what could be the case is that in this data file, this context is only used server side, is not rendered on the client. So if we look here, this is the server. Oh my goodness, I don't. Jeez, use the enter key a little bit more. I can't read this. Like what? Put an enter key here or something. Like what's going on? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. All right, so in here, there's got to be like a client side render. This looks like server side render. We were here before. Where is my client side render? Is it this? Okay, here's our client side render. So we are rendering app directly. So there is no data that should be there client side, period. It absolutely should never load these client side. So this abort delay, I don't know what this does. How long the server waits for data before giving up? Yeah, that's what I expected it to do. So this is not working. That's my assumption. Or the JS is able to make an API call and get the data. Still doesn't. I'm supposed to just show you how this works, but like there's something I'm not understanding with it. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they have this as their like flagship, and it's so complex and I don't know. I expected it will be a little simpler for me to understand. Okay, let's explain this real quick here. The context.read. Okay, so this is a use context they're providing on their context with their provider. They're providing some kind of data caller. I don't know where it is. Okay, we're gonna look for it. So data is coming from here. Children data. Okay, interesting. Data is a prop being passed in. Okay, yeah. So basically there's a dot read, okay? And dot read will fail the first time. So it'll fail, your component will error, the comments will error, and then it will display a loading indicator instead. The reason it will display a loading indicator is somewhere we have a suspense boundary. Comments here, suspense boundary, right? Fallback puts the spinner because this errored when it rendered. So it tries to render everything inside the suspense, and it will error. And then suspense will render your fallback when that happens. But after that, if this errors again, right here, this comments errors again, it will render the error. It will render the bubble up the error essentially all the way to the top because there's no error boundary here, because the comments errored. Now, if it displays data or it has data, then it would display that data. So that's how that works with the error boundary. This dot read. So let's go back here. This dot read. That's what that's doing. So the dot read is coming from he. Come on, I saw it here somewhere. JS bundle delay. Okay, interesting. This JS bundle delay is not the amount of time it takes for the JS bundle to load. It's interesting. It's the time the server takes to respond with the bundle. Okay, interesting. We're still getting data somehow. Come on, there's got to be like a get here. A dot get. Is there a dot? There's got to be some way we're making an API call from the client. Like if it doesn't have the data, there's no way that it renders this. That means the abort's not working. That's my only guess. Okay, I'll come back to that. I'm still bugged about it. Something's not making sense here. It's in their example. It's nothing to do with React 18 or anything. It's just I'm bugged by something in their example. I want to know the answer now. Okay, so this sidebar, they were saying that this sidebar is chunked out. Let's look real quick in the app here. Sidebar does have a suspense wrapper, but how is it chunked out? If we look here, it is a dynamic import using the lazy function. That is how it's working. Now, all of this, there's some more going on. If we go to our index, it's using a regular render. Okay, cool. We're not using concurrent mode. No, we are using concurrent mode. We are using concurrent mode. Keep this in mind. We are using concurrent mode. I'm assuming that's how this is working correctly, because create root is for concurrent mode. If it's React-DOM.render, right? .render, that's the typical function you would use. I don't think that supports suspense, or at least suspense like this with this new data calling thing. It does support suspense as far as I know, but not the data calling part. You have to use this. What's interesting also is that this is just React-DOM, and it's got this create root here, meaning in React 18 this is now part of the library, the concurrent mode. It is not using the experimental branch, which I have to use experimental branch with 17, as far as I know, to get this working. It's not with 17. It's whatever. It's like 16.8 or whatever they wanted to make it, and it causes conflicts with hooks and all this stuff. Using concurrent mode is a pain in the butt right now until you go to 18, apparently. I'm still not understanding this data. So we're passing it to the data provider. Where are we calling the data provider? I thought it was in server. No, and it's in render. Yes, data. I want to show you guys this. Create server data. Where's this coming from? Where is this coming from? Oh, down here. Oh, I hate it when people do this. Don't use hoisting for this, okay? Make this a const, put it at the top so I can find it, because when I'm looking through the code quickly, like, I'm not gonna know where this is, and I don't have to do a find every time I want to look for some code. This is really annoying when people do this. It's like, I'm gonna put my function down here, but it's going to execute up here. Then put it in a different file, okay? If you want it to do magic like that, just put it in a different file. Like, don't put this here and use hoisting to just, oh, it's gonna come up to the top, because most people that don't use JavaScript don't know about hoisting and don't understand the function syntax. In fact, I would guarantee you that most people using JavaScript today don't know what this function thing means anymore, because you're using error functions. So your functions will typically look like this, and then if you see something that says function, right, you're not gonna know what this is. You're gonna know, like, how is that working? Why is it down here and it's not here? Maybe you don't even care. Maybe like you're like, I don't even know. I don't know JavaScript, so it's down here and that's where it is. But it would be confusing, because if you see this down here, you're gonna assume you can just make any variable down here. That would be my assumption. When I was moving from Lua to JavaScript, I was like, okay, I see stuff down here. That means I can put anything anywhere in the code. It doesn't matter. That's so cool, And then you find out that that's not the case. And when you want to convert everything to const, you start running into problems, because you don't understand how to write code, because somebody set it up wrong initially. And they don't set it up wrong necessarily, but they set it up wrong in the case that, like, if you want to convert code to a in your syntax, you cannot do it very easily, because it has this assumption of hoisting. And what hoisting means is that when this happens, it's essentially doing this at the top, like the very top, but it has to be on the imports. It's doing like var, what's this function called? Create server data. It's like initializing it's not initializing it, sorry. It's creating the variable here, uninitialized, so that it can be used anywhere. And then it's like doing this equivalency here. So essentially this whole function, actually with a var it hoists it, but with a function it also hoists it. But this whole function when it runs JavaScript is actually being set up here. So like it's actually defined up here, even though you see it all the way down here. Even though you're seeing it here, it's actually executing like right or executing the creation of it right here, which is really confusing. I wonder what happens if I like. What if I made this, one of those functions? Is that called an iffy or something? It's like it's function that immediately executes, right here. Does it execute at this point, or does it execute at this point up here? I'm not sure. I can't tell you. I would assume that it would define it up there at the top, but then execute here in this spot. But I'm not sure. So let's go back to this. Create server data. Okay, so there's a .read, right? We did something with .read, right? So we have this data, we're providing it here, and there is a context.read. Context is this data. So where is the .read coming from, right? I don't see it. There's got to be some React thing that runs here. I swear there was a, yeah, here it is. Here it is. See, they've added this. There's another time this has happened. Like, why aren't you doing this? We don't have this context. Why? Like, why are you using the class syntax for methods? Like, it is not. There's no this. If there's a this in here, I expect to see it written obviously this way, right? But we're not using this, so why not write it as standard JavaScript stuff so that anybody can read it? When I first saw that other method syntax, I was like, oh, I didn't get it. I was so confused. I get this. If I saw this, I would understand it, because this is what I see typically, like 99.99999% of the time is this syntax. Okay, I'm done complaining about this. So they wrote this for their internal stuff, but then they made it public, and they want people. The reason I'm complaining is they made this for everybody to look at that wants to look at React 18 and see how to set it up server side. So this is supposed to be the thing that you look at to see how it works, as an example. And the problem is it's written in a way where there's like cryptic things here and there, which these little tiny things can get people to not understand it, and people tend to copy paste when they don't understand. And that's the problem I have. Like, I don't copy paste most of the time because I don't like this code. I can't read it, right? And so I would rewrite it in a way that I would read it. But then you run into situations where sometimes the code doesn't work because you did something different, and there's a reason it was done that way. There is no reason it was done this way though. So that's something to keep in mind. People typically will copy paste, especially when they don't understand it. When they're like, I don't know, this looks great to me. Copy, paste into my file, and then you're gonna see like 20 billion projects that have this exact code where it's like hard to read or hard to like grasp from the first thing. It wouldn't be hard to read from like the 50th time you've seen it, but that's what's gonna happen. So I mean, just do the way that anybody can look at this who doesn't know React and doesn't have a very good grasp on JavaScript, and they can look at this code and they can try to figure out what's going on. Like this syntax, maybe okay, you can say, well, that's a specific to newer JavaScripts. If I put the the method syntax, that might be easier for C++ people. I don't know. I'm not sure. I just feel like if anybody knows JavaScript today, this is the common thing that you would be taught. If you're not being taught that, that's interesting. I would be like really wanting to know. In fact, they use it right here. It's used right here. So like then use it up here too. You're expecting people to know it here. You're gonna expect people to know them there. End of story. And here. It's also used here. So, okay, I'm done. I said I was done, but now I'm actually done. Okay, so we're doing a read. This is the read function. Okay, now it's going to throw an error, but how are we going to get the error? Aha, throw promise. Interesting. Okay, so if done, return. Where's done? Oh, we're mutating it. Okay, we're going to mutate this. Oh, why are we mutating values? Why are we doing this? Like here's this interesting thing too, is that React has this thing, right? Use ref, and they have this also function called create ref, and it's like create ref, and so we're not using it. Why aren't we using create ref here? We don't need to, and there's no reason to do it. But if we're importing star as React, which is also strange, this has changed. They've changed something to make this work. Okay, so if we're importing star as React, right, wouldn't you just use something like this, where you do like const done ref equals create ref, and you're just like, why would you do this, Kevin? It doesn't make any sense. Because you can do done dot current and then do a mutation. And the reason I'm talking about all of this is because React has this. This is a pattern that they've created, that they've done. So why not use it here? Why are you mutating a done variable with a let instead of creating a ref and saying this is something that will be mutated? And so you should be aware that it mutates. Putting a let here does tell you that there's a possibility it gets mutated, but it's not 100% sure. But if you do something like this, it's very clear. It's like, hey, this is a reference. So I've made an object that I never want to change. This object reference will never change, but the value of it, the current value of it, will potentially be changing. And so that is something that I want you to keep track of. So it would make sense to me that they would use this syntax. Man, I'm here to talk about React, 18, and all I'm doing is just slamming on this code that they made available for everybody. It doesn't like follow their own API on how they expect people to do, manipulated references. Okay. That's why I know this is not a React component, but I would do it here too. In fact, I use that syntax, the ref syntax, in other places other than React, so that people that use React can understand the code I'm writing. Because I've never seen this like in a long time. I don't see this typically. I've seen it in a few PRs recently, but it's like unusual to me because I don't write code with this. I write code in React, and so typically when I write with React, I use the create ref or use ref typically because I'm using hooks. So I use a use ref to do that, so I can have my mutations and make it clear to everybody, hey, this is something that's being mutated, but the value itself is not being mutated. The property of it is being mutated. Okay, so they are creating a promise of null. And so if there's a promise, which it would be null, this would never trigger, right? So then throw the promise. And so if you don't have a promise, you're going to create one, and you're going to set that value here, and then throw it again. We're going to throw it. We're not returning it. So when you do read, there's no return promise at all. You always throw it. So I'm going to explain how this works. You're like, why? If you have a promise, why are you throwing it again, right? So the Suspense API must be looking for throw, and No. It's not. Okay, so here's how promises work though. If I chain off a promise, so I do a dot then. Okay, so promises have chaining. So there's a dot then function, promise dot then. So here I can log my promise, right? If I do this, and let's say I give this promise to some other function. Some other function also gets this. If it does a dot then, both of these will log at the exact same time, even if they're in completely different parts of the code. And the reason is When you have a promise, when the promise is getting these .then handlers, it will call them all in order. So I guess it won't be the exact same time. This one will go first, and then this one will happen. But it'll happen like immediately. It's like nanoseconds difference. You won't even notice it. It'll just be bam, bam, bam in your console. I did 3 bams, but there are only 2 here. So basically, if you have a fetch call, okay, and you fetch from api.example.com, who knows, right? This is not gonna work, but it's just whatever. Oh my gosh. So if you have something like this and you say const promise equals this, promise, and then you do that, these will both execute at the same time because they're getting the promise that this will return a value, and when it does return a value, it calls the .thens in the order they've been set, but immediately after, because there's no even if this, let's say this does another fetch call here, right? Let's say this one does a .then this does like some fetch call. API2.example.com, right? And so let's say this happens. Then so what ends up going on here is that this console log will not log the response of this. This console log will return the response of your promise when the API call comes back. This one will say, I don't care what the response was. I'm going to go ahead and just fetch another set of data and then log that. If you want to log, now here's the thing. You can also do this. So you can log this. You'll get this data log twice because this one will log, this one will log. Then this one, after that's done, this one will then execute the second piece of data, and then it will log that. So this is what's interesting about promises, is that this is a separate promise from this. They're 2 separate promises, but this promise is the same for both. So up until this is done executing, they're the exact same promise. After this is done executing, then these chains happen, and the chains happen differently. Now you got like 2 different promises. So what's important about all of that is that we're setting this promise here, and then if this component re-renders again, normally it would error, right? But what we're doing is we're throwing the promise again. So we're going to throw the same promise, and I think when it throws a promise, what's happening internally is that React's looking at this promise, and promises tell you if they're currently processing or if they're done processing. There is a way to find that out. Now, I don't think that's part of the API. So if I go promise, if I look at the promise API, as far as I know, there's no way to tell. Come on, it should have .then and .catch, and that's it. And .finally, right? .any. I guess it has some static methods too. I'm calling these static methods. I'm pretty sure these are static methods. It takes an iterable of promise objects, and yeah, should be just like .all. These are the static methods. These are not, yeah, this is a static method. Wait, hang on a second. Hang on. This is promise itself. The promise prototype. Okay, yeah, but these are static methods. Okay, I was right. So it's, yeah, .catch, .then, .finally. I was right. So these are all the things you get. But there is a way to find out if it's pending. I don't think it's like you're supposed to do it, but there is a way to find out if a promise is pending. Maybe what they do is they chain a .then and see if it gets immediately executed. It is a microtask, so it should happen next on the next next tick. You should see it like immediately. The next micro tick. Yeah, nobody's probably understanding what I'm talking about. Yeah, microtasks. Okay. Yeah, see, like they're they're even putting it up here. If you don't know what those are, it's fine. Who cares, right? You're probably never going to run into a situation where you need it. But like set timeout, for instance, is a macro task, and promises are micro tasks. So you can get it into an infinite loop situation with a promise where your code no longer executes, whereas with a set timeout, that is not possible. With set timeout, you can get an infinite loop, but it won't prevent your code from executing because it's a macro task. It basically waits until like all the other code is done executing, and then it executes. Whereas a promise is a micro task and will like gets priority over set timeout, and also it gets priority over other code that you wrote. Because if you have a code that's supposed to execute but like the promise is still there, it'll take priority. Okay, none of this is important. But the point is that it's rethrowing the exact promise that you already had if you already have a promise. That way it doesn't create a new data call and then wait on that one. So you're not like duplicating the data call in this read. Now what's interesting to me is that they're doing this themselves. I thought this was internal. I thought React 18 like had a way to make this read function here on a fetch call. Maybe it does, and because this is not a fetch call, it's not working. You know, they have to like manually code it in. I'm not sure. So this is something to keep in mind when you're writing your code, that I don't know if this is how the API would actually work if you were really making a fetch call. And the done basically return. So return probably will return. So it's returning undefined, which I'm assuming React is going to understand. Like if I get a read and it returns me nothing, use the previous value, because that means nothing's changed. I'm hoping that's how it is, but that seems weird because what if you want to return undefined? I don't know. I'm assuming this dot read is the getting data back, and it's if you get no data back, it's probably expecting a null. So if you return null here, at any point in time, if you return null, it's going to assume that your data came back correctly, but there was no data. So let's try that. We're going to return null. Oh, man, time on this video. Okay, we should have never gotten these. Can I go back here? I'm going to make the delay for JS 10 seconds, please. And then I'm not going to abort. I'm going to have the server side actually do its thing. I'm like talking all the stuff and hoping that this null works like I expect it to. I know this is ESLint erroring because basically none of this is getting executed now. This is here, like the data's here. Hang on. Resolve. Where's my data? Where's my actual data? It was I can't remember. I just saw it like earlier in this video. My data was in here, and I was like, "Oh, this is not the data. This is a thing with a dot read." There is data though. Like we have these comments, and there's fake data. Remember, there's a data file, and we were looking at the data file in here, and we're seeing this fake data, and then it's like putting it on the cont. It's just returning it. It's just returning it. So what if you like if you can't make the data call? Yeah, if context is null. It just like, but the context isn't null. There's a thing with a dot read function on it. If it's not equal to null, yeah, then it calls a dot read function, and then it should. What? I'm returning null, and it's like, hey, you're done. You read it, and then it just returns this because it's not throwing an error. It doesn't throw an error. Because it doesn't throw an error, it's just going to return the data. Okay, I mean, what I said is correct, but the execution of it was different than I expected. Okay, that makes sense. So return null will just put your data here. I don't know exactly what's supposed to happen now because this is all custom code that is not how you would actually execute it with a real fetch call, which makes me even more concerned about this example that people are going to copy paste it and not understand what's going on because you're not going to. This is not how real data calls are made, so it's really confusing. But if we return undefined, it should also do the same thing. So if we return undefined, I need to save it, don't I? I'm not sure. Actually, yeah, it immediately executes. So that's what's going on here. We're returning a promise, and this promise has a timer on it. The timer is the API delay. Now I'm curious. So remember how I said that the abort doesn't seem to be working? You can abort promises. It is possible. You can also abort but not all promises are abortable. That should be very clear. You can't abort every promise, and if you can like fake it, but it's not like our RxJS where you can cancel things. You can cancel observable and it just works. That's not how it works with promises. There's a more complex way of doing it, and you have to use an abort controller to do it. I'm not going to go into detail right now. All right, so there's an abort function here. So the pipeToNodeWritable function that is replacing the renderToString function, it gives you a start writing. So that's how you can immediately be like, hey, I am ready to start making this data call. I have set up my response and I am ready to respond to, and this is like, what is this doing? How does this have access to the resource? Or the response. Like, how is this response.send? Like, does it know it's express? What in the world? Response.write, like it's writing this doc type, which React does not support this doc type. You always have to do that yourself. Keep that in mind that if you ever respond with React and you put the HTML tag in the head tag and the body and whatever, you need to have this doc type for the browser to understand that it's an HTML, but also you have to do that manually because React doesn't support the syntax, which is kind of weird. It's not React that doesn't support it, it's JSX that doesn't support it, and so therefore React doesn't support it. Yeah, it doesn't like, there's no like that, and then this not sign here, and it's not supported, so you always have to do this yourself. So it's interesting they did it here. That's good they caught that. If something errored before we started streaming, we set the error code appropriately. Oh yeah, I mean, I see, you can make it 500. I mean, this is never going to get set, right? Oh, on error. I see. Okay, so that's just some nice code, but start writing. What magic is here? Well, start writing what? Like, how is it going to respond? How does it know to respond? Where's this thing getting passed in? There's got to be something I'm missing. Oh, pipeToNodeWritable. Here's our response. Ah, so when you call start writing, it's got access to this, and it can call it for you. How does it know what the heck this is? See response.socket? It's like writing is a bit more involved. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Because so you're using like a socket to connect to the, it's not a WebSocket, is it? It's like it's an HTML socket thing that it can, I mean, this is standard HTML. I should know how all this works. It's HTTP protocol supports this. I just don't know. I never really dealt with it much. What I do know in the past is I was able to like load parts of a page, and then like you could see the rest of the text load in, the rest of the text, and then the rest of the text. You can do that. I know you could do that. I didn't know you could like render something and then like tell it like, hey, swap out a portion of it and then re-render that, or maybe it re-renders the whole thing. I don't know how that works. I'd have to look into the source for that, and which I can't really read the React source code. I've looked through it. I'm like, I don't get this. Abandon the switch to client rendering if enough time passes. What? Oh, this is the abort. Okay, I was looking at this before. Set timeout. Abort. He calls the abort function that was allocated to us from the pipeToNodeWritable. Okay, hang on. I want to see something here. Render. Okay, so our server will call this render function from scratch. So this does not do any kind of component caching. We do not gain component caching with this. But what we do gain is that it will do this node writable pipe whatever, and it'll keep the stream open as long as there is stuff still happening until we call the abort and then abort out of it. Now, you could not call the abort ever. The problem is if it takes too long for the data call to occur, then it will just take longer for it to render your HTML from the server, which is something you want to be keeping in mind. And it's, again, I'm not sure about race conditions, right? What if your JavaScript is executing already? Are we going to like just swap this out after that's happened? Are you going to get a race condition? I'm not sure. Now, I'm sure, I'm very, very sure that they've already accounted for this, but I'm not sure how. I don't know how it works, but I'm sure they've done it. They had to have. There's no way they would release something like this and not account for that race condition. Please say you accounted for the race condition. And so, okay, let's see. The abort function gets called. I mean, there's nothing special here. I don't think this is working right. I bet there's like a bug or something. Just from what I'm seeing. Oh, no, it is working right. But then how does the client render the comments? Because the comments are in this data file, and the data file is being put in the context, and the context is being not put in the client-side render. So how the heck is this rendering comments? I'm still concerned about that. There's something I'm not understanding on how this example is working. But either way, I understand everything else. So I think if you've understood what I've said so far, you would also understand how this works. Is that anytime you make a React render, normally it would do like render to string, so it's like stringifies the entire React thing, statically. But now it's not just doing statically. Yeah, see, this is what you used to do. Exactly. This is great. So they put a little comment here. This is what you used to do is res.send, all this stuff. So instead of that, you're passing the res function here, and it is sending updates as it goes along. I don't think they're just calling res.send because they're calling res.write here. So I'm assuming they must be writing data to it, but I don't know how they override the comments. That's the interesting thing to me. Still don't get that. I don't know if they like wipe the entire thing and rewrite it again. When you look at the HTML, like view page source or whatever, are you getting a duplicate HTML context and it's just using the second one? Very interesting. I want to find out. Okay, so I want to make sure I get my loading indicator. I don't have it because I changed my delays. No, I don't have it because I maybe broke this file. Should see a loading indicator. Please show me a loading indicator. Yeah, okay. I want to see what this looks like. I don't want to see what this looks like. What? Okay. There's a way to break this out. Let's see. Project view. Open a new window. Okay. This is what I want. Please give me page source. Thank you. Hasn't loaded yet. It's waiting 10 seconds. Wait a second. Is it aborting too early? 2 seconds. I'm going to change this to 3. It's definitely client-side rendering right now. Loading chunk failed. Okay, great. Refresh. Please refresh now. Okay, so this one already got it. This one should have comments. Yes, it does. Okay. I want to open this in Sublime. Oh, line wrap. Thank you. I still can't read. I mean, nobody can read this, right? Like, here we go. We're looking for 2 of these. No. We're looking for 2 of these. No. How are they overriding the HTML. I found it. Okay, so that's what they're doing. Okay, so here's your HTML document right here, right? And so what happens was when the data comes back, okay, then it renders this div after the HTML. What? And then hidden. Yeah, it better be hidden. So geez, what the heck is this? Okay, so template. This is interesting. Is this official now? They'd have to create this, but there's no script tag here to create a template element, right? So what are these template elements? Interesting. I feel like I'm looking at not React. I feel like I'm looking at like Backbone or something else. Okay, I'm gonna look this up real quick and see if I missed something. The heck, this is a thing? Since when? Since when? When did I feel like they keep adding stuff and I miss it now. 26? Dude, this has been here forever. What's this template thing? Template? Why have I never used this? Is it probably because I use React? What? Okay, hang on. Template, you can give an ID to the template, but then what? Avoiding document fragment pitfall. Document fragment is not a valid target, blah, blah. I don't know what that means. Consider the following HTML. I don't care about like the thing. I want to know what this works like. Okay, so look, can I do example, blah, 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 template. Here, template. Can I like inject stuff into here with JavaScript? Is that what this is for? Look, product row, and this is product table. Okay, hang on. And existing data could optionally be included here. Yeah, but like, tell me, how are you you gotta have JavaScript, right? Okay, so it's creating a template, and is it gonna like is it gonna render this template inside the T body? Product row, is that the one I want? That is what I want. Yes. So we're querying the selector product row, which is a template. Oh my god, this is just like Backbone. What? This Backbone's native in the browser now? Template.content.clone node. Okay, this is, I used to do this myself when I was doing like jQuery and I was writing out to the DOM with like handlebars and stuff. I would do this stuff manually. This like cloning the element. What? Yeah, you're just cloning that. Okay, so you're basically cloning this, and then you're passing it props. Let's see. Text context. No clue, but it's the first and second. Oh, it's the elements. It's children. Yeah, but it's getting the TR first. First, it gets the TR, so it grabs it. There must be something here. Yeah, query selector all TD. Wait a second. TD is this one. Oh, it's querying for all of these inside this template. It's getting all the TDs. It's replacing each one of these, and then it is rendering them multiple times in the T body here somehow. I don't know where the T body append child. Okay, so there's a little bit more involved. I'm assuming React is doing a bunch of this themselves. So if you look here, here's your HTML context, right? And we have this template here. There must be. What's weird is there's a template down here. Like I don't want to render. Oh no, you take the template and you render somewhere else. So, but there's a template here. Right? See this B0. This is a P1. This is S1. I mean, this is probably minified stuff. No, we're in development mode, aren't we? Okay, but see the script tag here? There's another script tag here too. Notice here, RS, S1 to P1, and then down here, B0 to S0. So when our comments get back, okay, so S1 and P1, I'm gonna show you up here. Mine's gonna be blown here. There are two templates. There should be, because one of them is this stuff. All this crap with the dates and whatever. It should be here somewhere. No? Okay, I'm not gonna blow your mind. But there is a template here. Okay, there's a P1 template, and we must be rendering something into the P1 template. S1 is here. We're taking everything in this div and we're putting it into that template, and then we're taking maybe. I don't know. I have no clue what this is doing, because the fact that it's hidden makes me really wonder. But what I do know is that this B0 matches this B0, which means we're replacing the contents of this B0. RC must be React something, or it's just minified. Okay, so B0 is getting replaced with the contents of S0. S0 is right here. So it is this whole div. Okay, where's this div end? This div goes template. I hope you can read this. If you can't, I could make it prettier, I guess. So it's taking this. See, this template has a template inside of it, and we're putting S1. We're replacing S1 with P1. S1 is right here. We're replacing all of this with this template P1, because here we're replacing B0 with S0, and S0 is this div here. I don't know exactly how it's working, but okay, the important piece is that it renders your, I was right. It's rendering your HTML, and then it's adding stuff to the end of it. And then the end of it, what it's doing is it has the script tags and is running this JavaScript, which is weird because if your JavaScript is running at the same time, what's happening on execution order, this script then renders and modifies a template that they have put in the middle of your code where the suspense call was, that it had a fallback. That is very, this is like smart. This is really smart what they've come up with here. No wonder they're so excited about it. But it's only smart from a technical level. Like if you're doing this yourself, you don't understand what's going on, right? You have to look at the source code to really understand. Okay, so I think I get the title of this video. It's gonna be like the only person who talked about the actual way that React does server-side rendering in version 18, right? That's the video title. No, I want to have to search YouTube for this, but I don't know how many other people have actually talked about this. Hopefully that's the value that my channel is going to add. It's like you can actually see this. This is so cool. But remember I talked about there's got to be race conditions and things like that. I'm assuming that when the JavaScript loads, this template ID here is going to change. And then this code will run, but it won't do anything because B0 is not going to exist. I sure hope that's the case. And I don't know, S1 and P1 and like, what is all this? And when the JavaScript runs, does it like not care about any of this? Because it's going to hydrate it. And when it hydrates, is it going to hydrate because it's like, oh, there was data there, then I have to like take it, like I have to add that data to my context and somehow have access to it? I don't know. It's not that special. There's nothing too crazy. It's just this RS. Oh, here's the function right here. Oh, and that's RS. What's RC? Man, I want to find out what RC is. Here's where RC is defined. Okay. Get element by ID. Get element by ID again. Okay, so one of these is the template. One of these is the data that's going to go in the template. Then the parent node remove child. So to get rid of the original one. And then if a do so if we have a, which is that if this exists, if see, this is the race condition. If this exists, then previous sibling. Wait, but they removed C like immediately. I'm assuming C is like, whoa, there's no C here. What the heck is C? C dot parent node. Hang on. C equals the second one. Okay, so where this it is, if it's in the parent node, remove it. Now that we have a reference to it, I see what it's doing is it's essentially taking this part here and it's removing this from the DOM completely. Once this script runs, it grabs this and removes it from the DOM no matter what. But it then will check to see if we did find that ID B0, and then it will, if B0 exists, why is there a do here? Do while. Okay, well, replace the previous sibling. No. A is equal to say it doesn't replace it. There's no replace. I'm sorry, I just said that in my head. So A dot previous sibling, while 8 is not equal to A dot node type. Yeah. I'm sure everybody understands what this means. Or dollar question mark not equal to A dot data. Okay. So this dollar question mark must be in here. But we can't read comments. Node type. Can you get comments as nodes? Like, is this valid HTML? And you can like read it in the DOM? No way. I'm gonna try this in a second. So it's looking for this content here. Oh my gosh. They wrote a spot like this and they're replacing the but why not just use the template? What is all this stuff here for? Oops. What's all this? What does this comment matter? This comment looks like it's important now. Because we should look for the end of it. So there should be one where we're looking for this in the code. Yeah, see right here. What the heck? And what are these siblings? I don't understand. Because they would be the children of the parent, but you just removed them, I thought. No, you removed this. Oh, we're looking in the children. We're looking for, but we don't need to, we just put a template in here. Why don't you just replace the template contents? I'm so confused. I can like look at it and read it and like understand it. I really don't care at this point. I think everybody's got the gist of how cool this is. But the thing I want to know about is this. Can I like, is this a thing? Am I missing something in here? Okay, I want to see if I can find it. Elements, please. Thank you. I don't care about this side actually. What the heck? I thank you. I didn't. It's too big. It's too big. Okay, I'm gonna make it a little smaller. Hopefully you can see it, but I don't need the CSS. I don't care, and I don't need this console open. Yeah, it's right here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hang on, let me look at this. Dollar question mark, and here it's just a dollar. Whoa. Did you replace it? Okay, where are my comments? These are my comments? I can't really see because I made it too small. I said I didn't care, but now I do. Yeah, they replaced the question mark. If it server-side renders for... Why is it... Okay, hang on. $0. No way! What? That was way too loud. I hope I don't wake my kids. Length. No, length. No, I don't want length. Hang on. What is it? What is this? Wait, type. It was node type or something? Is there a type property here? I don't know. Node type, yeah. 8. It is looking for comments. Oh my god. So it won't find it. It won't find it if the first one doesn't have the question mark. So at some point we got to remove the question mark, right? Like there's got to be somewhere where we remove the question mark. Okay, I'm looking for it. I see it here, but we're not removing it. Yeah, is equal to a.data. So if we do .data on this, $0.data, it's a $. Okay, we got it. Check it out because it's just a $sign right now. You can get the data from a comment? What the heck? Dude, my mind's being blown here. Somebody knew their HTML. That's what I'm telling you. Oh my gosh. I feel so stupid right now. I feel like I don't even exist on the map at this point in terms of like web development. That I should know this. I feel like I should have already known that you could get DOM elements and these are just DOM elements and you can. Oh my gosh, somebody was really really smart who put this together. Yeah, and then remember this is not valid HTML like this. But it is valid HTML if your script tags runs and removes this from the DOM. That is so cool. And then that way there's not like, see, the reason it removes it from the DOM is because you got all this stuff here, right? And these can have classes on them. Not this. These, see here, there's a class comment, right? So when you're selecting all the comments from the page, you might get your comments here and your comments here. So no matter what, it wants to remove this as soon as that script tag executes. That way you won't have these extra classes and code down here. So if I look over on this side at the elements view, and this is never going to be perfect, but if you look here, what the heck? Okay. They've changed how React works. I mean, that's the only way this is going to work, right? This RS and RC functions, like it's replacing these P1s. Look at that, B2 and S2. What the heck is this? So these numbers are changing. See, okay. After it renders, I bet you the server side, yes. See, it has S1 here. So after it renders the first time, it adds a 1 to it to designate that it has been changed at least once. See, this is a P1, this is a S1. That designates that this has been changed once on here. So none of this fixes like the server-side rendering speed potentially, but it allows you to do like crazy stuff like data call server-side and have that be the same code that runs on the client. This is brilliant. I'm fascinated. This is like crazy good stuff. And it's honestly a little above me at this point, how it's all working, but it's very, very cool. Props to whoever made this, and I'm going to end the video here. I'm very happy with what I saw. For the new React 18 pipeToNodeWritable function. This is very, very good. Genius work here. Taking advantage of HTML. This is and the way that you can stream HTML from the server after it's all rendered. Like you're essentially streaming data, from the server after it's rendered, which is something you would have done if you ever used PHP. Like you might be familiar with it, maybe you wouldn't, because if you use PHP, you might use like a WordPress or something you wouldn't know. I mean, I did because I had to do this from scratch, but yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. Wow. I'm just I don't even want to end the video yet because I want to talk about how cool it is. So the only way to use it today in the alpha is with React DOM Unstable Fizz. But here it says, yeah, I don't know if it's out yet. I don't know if the only way to find out is to go to npm and you go over here and you go to React and then you go to versions on this side. Which on mobile, it's up and down. It's a little different. But notice here, 18 is still an alpha, so you will still have to do the fizz, whatever, unstable fizz to use it. You won't get a performance benefit as far as I know. It just allows you to use Suspense server-side. The whole thing, like 18, no matter what you do, will allow you to use Suspense server-side, but you get the full benefits from using this new node, what is it called? pipeToNodeWritable. Yeah, it's very smart, and the code to implement it wasn't that hard when we were looking at the server here. The one thing that's very different is they had that socket stuff. Okay, so hang on. Listen to port. I'm not done, I guess. Is pipe? Ooh, that might be important. See, because it says requires elevated privilege. There's some more stuff going on here, but you shouldn't need to worry about that. None of that should matter. Read file sync. Okay, well, we're not reading a file sync. We're caring about that's for this. That's for the JS file. I'm looking for. Where's our this render function is being called? It's being imported in here. I bet you. There it is. Where's it being used? Right here. So it gives it rec.url and res. I mean, you can call this whatever you want. This doesn't have to be called render. It's whatever you want. So app.get on slash. They wrapped it in a handle errors function. Ah, interesting. And then wait for webpack. While true. Okay, try. I mean, don't this always execute? Am I missing something? There must be something where we break. Await maybe? I don't know. Return. There's our break. Okay, so if this does successfully work, return out. Otherwise, catch an error. You don't care about this. Nobody cares. This is just returning the JavaScript file, right? No, it's executing the JavaScript file. Hang on. Is it building this with a webpack? Like, well, there's no webpack here. Read file sync is just regular node. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Where's it? So I knew there was a route. So there's a slash. This is the exact same as you would write today. They've just written a little bit of error handling around it. You don't have to do that in your app. You can just call render straight up in this callback function, which we don't have a callback async function. I don't know what that means. Okay, so I don't know why they're doing an async function there, but we could just do this. This will work just fine. There's nothing special you got to do. If I save this, I don't have access to rec and res. Okay. I'm going to try this real quick just to make sure it works. You don't need all that crazy stuff. No. Yeah. Yeah, you don't need it. Okay, it works. Fine. I was right. Okay, so you do that. And then in your render function, which is what's new here, instead of res.send this stuff, which is what you would normally have, and this would maybe be in a function and you would call it whatever, right? This is going to make it, yeah, I guess it's not going to be as easy to switch it, but you do have to do this, which is interesting to me. But then what's also important, you don't have to do this. It doesn't matter. I mean, this is just nice so that you can error correctly when stuff happens. But what's important is this function there, this function here. And actually, I guess this deconstruction from the function. Because you need access to the abort function down here. You don't need the abort, though. You really don't need the abort. What you need is to start writing. And so basically, you'll call this, and you'll call start writing, but start writing is being deconstructed out of itself. And then it gets called, man, this is like Inception here. Which came first, the start writing or the pipeToNodeWritable? Because this is a function here. By the time this function starts writing, this is in the context of it, but it hasn't been defined until after this is returned. What the heck? Okay, I mean, I get how it works. I've done this before in my code, but it's like really confusing to explain it. So this takes the res. There's your data provider, and there's all the stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit much, and it's going to make it more difficult in some cases to convert this. But provided you do this stuff correctly and you do start right, yeah, it should just be a pretty drop-in replacement for a lot of apps. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about that. It's not related to this part. It should be mostly a drop-in replacement. Now, I wonder what version of Express you need, but I've seen this in Express, so this should be there. In like Express 4, which has been out for forever. Yeah, I don't think anything special here. Just need this from Unstable Fizz. Yeah, cool, great. Had some complaints about the example, but otherwise it's very good. Very cool at showing what's capable of being done. I was a little confused about this. I think I get how it works now, but I don't know if it was working correctly because I still don't know how the client's getting this data. The client somehow has this data that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, everything else makes sense. I must be missing something, and I'm not obviously looking through every file. I'm still bugged about that, though. Yeah, what a cool project. What a cool thing that somebody built. All right, thanks. See you. Goodbye.